Thanks again for attending this Wednesday webinar where we're going to be learning more about brain breaks and keeping students engaged. My name is Jill Bates. I'm the ESU 8 Assistant Administrator, and thanks for joining me. Brain breaks is a topic that is of personal interest to me. I am not only a former teacher, but I'm also the nursing coordinator here at the service unit, and I work with school nurses. So the health as well as the achievement of students is really, really important to me. We all know that there are physical and emotional benefits for physical activity, and some of those are listed here on the screen. Builds bones and muscles, improves blood pressure, can be a stress reduction method. And a recent study actually found out that just 20 minutes a day of physical activity at school may be enough to prevent diabetes in children. And from a medical perspective, I think that's really, really significant. While the physical and emotional health benefits of physical activity are known and recognized, the academic benefits aren't so widely known. Research has indicated that physical activity can lead to improved academic behaviors, improved cognitive skills, and improved academic achievement. And we all know that schools are under a lot of pressure to perform well on NISA. And if there truly is this link between physical activity and student achievement, we might as well take advantage of it. Physical activity and these core subjects really don't need to be rivals for time within the school day because the brain and the body are biologically determined to work together. Even Thomas Jefferson recognized this. A quotation from him, "If the body is feeble, the mind will not be strong." And on the website Sparking Life, there's the quote, "Exercise is the single most important, powerful tool you have to optimize your brain function." So if we think about brain breaks, what exactly is a brain break? Well, brain breaks are just simply very short, maybe 3 to 5 minute breaks sometime during the day. They can be either at the beginning of a class or in the middle of a class with the purpose to get everyone energized, to get them up and moving a little bit. And it's also proven to help students stay focused in the learning process. So let's do a real quick brain break right here. And since we know that we want to stay focused on this webinar, what I want you to do is take one hand, hold up your index finger. On the other hand, hold up your thumb and then switch. So you're going to switch from thumb to index finger on each hand and see how fast you can do this and if you can do it. I find this little brain break to be rather difficult, and it seems very, very simple. You can see that the last statement says, try it standing up. If you stand up, then that's using other muscles, which is engaging your brain in a little bit different way. So what did we just do when we did that simple little thumb and finger exercise? Well, we increased the oxygen and blood flow to your brain, which helped to wake it up a little bit. We helped develop some pathways between the left and the right side of your brain, crossing the midline. Fight or flight hormones were reduced, and serotonin and endorphins were released to relieve stress. There's been a lot of research by a number of educators and medical professionals to discover what is the association and the relationship between school-based physical activity and academic performance. And in all cases, there was a positive correlation between either physical education classes or even in-class activities, such as short little brain breaks. You'll notice that I have a picture of a book there by John Rady, who is a physician from Harvard, and he's one of the leading researchers on this topic. So if you're interested in learning more, I suggest that you might check out his book, Spark. In fact, he says that physical activity and learning are inextricably interwoven. So why would we want to do it? I wanted to just give you a little bit of research from, well, I guess it's not research, it's just a study that a teacher reported. This veteran high school teacher who taught for around 14 years became an instructional coach. And the principal suggested that this teacher pretend to be a student and shadow a 10th grader one day and a 12th grader one day. And you can see the classes that this teacher took. The teacher followed the student schedule and went through the entire day. What did the teacher find out? Well, here's two of the very important things that he found out. Students sit all day, and sitting was very, very exhausting. And that during the time that they are sitting, they're passively listening 90% of the time. He's quoted as saying, "I could not believe how tired I was after the first day." Teachers are active during classes, mostly on their feet, and we don't empathize with what school is like for students. In every class, during block scheduling, the expectation was for us to come in, take our seats, and sit down for the duration of the time. By the end of the day, I could not stop yawning, and I was desperate to move or stretch. He said, I was just simply drained. And when this teacher looked at his own teaching, he said, I wish that I had known that I needed to incorporate a hands-on, move around activity into every class, or have a mandatory stretch period throughout the day, or even do a brain break. So what makes brain breaks so important? Well, we all know that our brain has 4 primary lobes. The frontal lobe, which is responsible for thinking, planning, organizing, problem solving, emotions, personality. The parietal lobe, which is basically the center for perception, for making sense of the world, and also arithmetic and spelling is located back in the parietal lobe. The occipital lobe, which is that blue lobe in the back, is for vision. And the temporal lobe, or the green lobe in the picture, is where memory, understanding, and language functions are located. And the reason that this is important is that we want all lobes of the brain to be working. And I think this is kind of interesting research. Here's a picture of brain activity, and it's an average composite of 20 students' brains taking the same test on the left side after sitting quietly, and on the right side after taking a 20-minute walk. And you can see that there is much more brain activity after students have had some exercise. So if that isn't a visual that tells us how important it is to get oxygen to the brain and get moving, I don't know what is. Dr. Rady also says exercise is like Miracle-Gro for the brain. It puts the brain of the learners in the optimal position for them to learn. So we want to go from a classroom that looks like this, where students are just seated in the class. Actually, this kind of looks like what my classroom probably looked like back when I was in elementary school, to one where students have an opportunity to get up and to get that oxygen flowing to their brain so they're able to focus and think more clearly. The rest of this webinar is going to be basically a sharing of resources and some information that I found. First place I started was at Pinterest, and I found this poster that was made by students where they identified, why is physical activity good for me? And you can see that they said things like, oh, it makes me feel good, it makes me happy, it's fun, makes me a better athlete, etc., etc. But also you'll notice that there are a couple comments here that says it helps me focus and it makes me smarter. I think that's pretty interesting that students recognize that. One site where we can go is called Fuel Up to Play 60. And this is a site that is sponsored by the NFL. And if you go to this website, there is a huge list of different brain breaks that you can do. For example, it says make it a classroom tradition to have a 5-minute walking break before a test. And there's actually been a study done that showed that students who did that increased their academic achievement when they made that just a classroom habit. That was a tradition. Before a test, we'll go for a walk or we'll do a brain break, and their scores went up. If you want to incorporate a brain break into social studies, let's say Nebraska Statehood Day was just a couple days ago. Take a tour, have your class stand up and pretend like they are walking up to the state capitol, and they're walking up the steps, and then they're looking at the ceiling and looking at the mosaics, and what do they see, and then they're looking at the floor. There's a lot of ways to incorporate a little bit of activity there into something as simple as thinking about the Nebraska State Capitol. Or here's an activity that I like. You take a standard deck of cards, and beforehand you designate that maybe hearts are for jumping jacks, and maybe diamonds are for running in place or something. Draw a card. Let's say I got 10 of hearts. That means that we needed to do 10 jumping jacks. A twist on that would be to let maybe students select a card, and they would do, let's say I got the 4 of hearts, I'd do 4 jumping jacks, and I could trade with someone else, and we could build in some physical activity that way. Here's another idea for a brain break. This is probably for primary. This person took some tongue depressors and then attached a brain break idea to each one of the tongue depressors, put them in a little cup, and then they draw them out. And you can see they have the memory jump. They do something with circles. So there's a picture on the front and then a description on the back side. That would be helpful, especially if you had a substitute teacher coming in who might want to use some brain breaks with the students. Another idea is to use a physical activity cube, where you just simply take something like a large dice and put different activities on different sides and maybe roll it a couple of times and add some activity into the classroom that way. I talked about the 4 lobes of the brain and how we want to get oxygen to all 4 lobes of the brain. We also want to think about how we're using the 2 hemispheres of the brain. Maybe you identify yourself as being left-brained. You're very organized and logical and sequential. Or maybe you're right-brained. You're very creative and artistic, and you're adventurous and all of that. Well, what we want to do is make sure that we are engaging both sides of the brain. And in order to do that, we can do something that are called cross-lateral activities. And these are physical activities that visually or kinesthetically cross over the body midline. And that way they stimulate all 4 lobes of the brain and the right and the left hemisphere. So we're stimulating the left, which is good at sequencing, and the right, that's good at seeing the big picture. These cross-laterals also increase blood flow to the brain, and they increase the communication between the 2 hemispheres of the brain. So here's a real simple cross-lateral activity, and you can either stand up or you can just sit where you are and try this. Extend one arm out in front of you and point your thumb up. And then what I want you to do is put that right in the center and look at it. And then without moving your head, you are going to move your hand and create a figure 8 on its side. It's called a lazy 8. So it's like a figure 8 lying on the side, and watch it with your eyes. Okay? That's a very, very simple thing. Our hand moved across the midline. Our eyes moved across the midline. But I found a video that takes this a little bit further. And so I am going to share my screen right now, and we're going to watch this video. Hang on just a second. Hoping that you see this. Oh, it says nothing is being shared. Okay. We'll try this again. Share my screen. I see it's not working, is it? Oh, shoot, that's too bad. Okay. Well, we'll forget that. Anyway, what this video does, and I will have the links available when I post the link to the webinar. I'll have the links there so that you can go and check out these videos. What you do is take your left hand and your right hand and you make a lazy 8 with each one of your hands, but your right hand starts going up on the 8 where the left hand starts going down, and so you're crossing over and you're moving different directions, and it's very, very cool. And the video actually shows some, what I would say, middle school students, maybe 9th or 10th grade students, using this as a brain break. And it's very, very interesting to watch them as they're working on this. And I apologize that that's not working. Shoot. Okay. Let's go ahead, and here's another one that you can do. This is a cross lateral. With your left hand, grab your nose. With your right hand, grab your left ear, and then cross back and forth, and see how accurate you can be when you're doing that. These are quick little brain breaks that you can do without even getting out of your seat, but it's giving that brain kind of introducing something that's novel and that's new and helping to get some blood flow going up there to the brain. Another great resource is YouTube, and I found just by doing a Google search for YouTube videos on brain breaks, there were many, many, many of them. One of the best sites was called the Learning Station, and this Learning Station is award-winning. It's a great website. There's a variety of videos here for all grade levels. And if you'll notice, this Boom Chicka Boom is one of their most popular videos. You can see that over 6 million people have watched it. Okay, I'm going to try to share this again so that we can watch the video. So we'll try this one more time. And again, I don't think it's sharing anything. Try it. Very interesting. Okay, well, we'll take that out again. Anyway, I suggest that you go to this, to YouTube, go to the Learning Station and check out Boom Chicka Boom. It's a really fun video. There's a lot of music and chanting, and the kids have a lot of fun. I also, in my Google search, found some brain breaks that are associated with St. Patrick's Day. For example, the one in the upper right-hand corner is called Listen to the Tricky Leprechaun. And it says, when he says to do something, make sure to do it with your opposite hand. So if he says, touch your left foot, you have to touch your left foot with your right hand. He says, touch your right ear, you need to touch your right ear with your left hand. So there's that cross-lateral work going on there too. Another website that I really, really love is called Go Noodle. Go Noodle is a collection of different brain break videos. You need to create an account. So you log in, you can create a class, and you can designate your favorite videos. Again, the students they're jogging in place, they're stretching, they may be doing yoga, they may be doing Zumba, they may be doing a little bit of dancing. There's a lot of videos here that are really cool. For example, when you log in, this is what you see. There are Go Noodle videos that are here. There's a Zumba for kids. Cuckoo Kangaroo is very, very popular, and there is one in there that's called the roller coaster that is really fun. A kindergarten teacher told me about it, but I've even used it with adults at a workshop, and they had a lot of fun with it too. Maximo Indoor Recess. There's a Run With Me, Kids Bop, and if you enable YouTube, you can even search YouTube for videos. One of the reasons that I like Go Noodle is because when you're logged in, you can search for things that maybe are related to math or related to reading or spelling. And so there's some different little games in there. I suggest that you go to that website. Since the screen sharing isn't working, I'm not going to try to do that, but go to gonoodle.com. I think you will really, really like it. Another great resource for your personal learning network to learn about brain breaks is Twitter. I simply put Twitter into the search, or brain breaks into my search in Twitter, and came up with this information. You can see that there's pictures of brain breaks of kids in 5th grade. The one over here is using Go Noodle. Okay, so you can see different ideas for brain breaks here. A lot of them are using Go Noodle, kids getting up, getting moving. And this is a way that you can link with other teachers to learn what they're doing in the classroom. Another idea that I found on Twitter was from a teacher who talked about Dr. Seuss. And right here she's talking about songs for Seuss as a fun brain break, and she included a link. So I simply clicked on the link and it took me to her blog here where she has some lyrics to some Dr. Seuss brain break songs. So that's something else that I learned from Twitter. Another one that was on Twitter is Kenzie Wins the Brain Break. And I don't know if you can notice what she's using here, but she's using Kahoot. If you haven't discovered Kahoot, I suggest that you check that out too. You can just go to getacahoot.com. Kahoot is a student response system where you can create quizzes, you can create little kind of questions where you can check for understanding. It's engaging, it's really fun. You can use it with adults. Students don't have to log in, they don't have to have an account, so it's really, really simple to use. I think that would be a really fun way to do a brain break also. And I had never thought about that one until I saw it on Twitter. There's also some brain break resources available at ESU 8. I did want to draw your attention to this. Here's the link for the Wednesday webinars. If you click on that, we have links to all of our recorded webinars over the last year and a half. So be sure to check that out. But here, Snap is our online catalog. So if you click on Snap, it will take you to a login site, and I have logged in, and I did a search for Deskercise Nutrition. Deskercise is a series of short little videos by an oldie but a goodie, Slim Goodbody. And the reason that I put in nutrition is because March is Nutrition Month. So he has some different short little videos here that incorporate health tips with exercise, with a little bit of information about states of the union. And so you can kind of pick and choose what you want, but these are really, really fun. And I think there are 173 of them. So you could show a different one every day of the year. Edutopia is another website that has a lot of good resources for teachers. And they suggest these brain breaks because they say that when we use brain breaks, they positively impact our emotional states and learning. They refocus our brains, and it kind of changes up the dull routine. Maybe we've been sitting there with a lot of incoming information. It's predictable and it's tedious, and we're kind of getting tired of that. Our brains are wired for novelty, so by using some of these ideas, you can bring in a new stimulus that's a little bit different, a little bit different twist on things, and that will help with the development of the brain. For example, it says symbolic alphabet. Sing the alphabet with names of objects rather than with letters. Okay, you're twisting it up a little bit, making the brain do some things a little bit differently. the junk bag, pull out something from the junk bag and ask the students to identify 2 different ways that they could use that object in a different way other than its normal use. So Edutopia is a great site to check out too. You can use brain breaks with teachers. I don't know how many of you enjoy sitting and listening and coming to a meeting or a workshop where you sit from 9 to 12, you have a break for lunch, and then you're there again till 3 o'clock. These teachers are doing one of those cross-lateral activities that's called the cross crawl, where you march in place and then they are touching their knees with their alternate hand. That's a real fun thing to do with kids or to do with adults. You can also have them maybe do a knee and then a foot or a heel. So they're going in front of their body, behind the body. That's engaging all the parts of the brain too. Another thing that adults could use is a Chrome extension that's called Move It. This is something, if you're a Chrome user, if you use Chrome for your browser, you can add this to Chrome, and what happens is that every 2 hours or 3 hours or 30 minutes, however you've set it, you will be reminded to get up and move it. This message will come up on your screen, and this one says, hop from your left to right foot for 10 seconds. Some of us get so engaged in looking at our computers that we don't give ourselves that break. Our eyes need to have a refocus from that screen. So Move It is a way that's very, very easy that you can use to build a brain break into your day. So through this webinar, I hope that you will go from having seeing students like this who are bored in the classroom to being more enlightened because their teacher realizes that brain breaks are a smart idea. Another really smart idea is to attend next week's webinar, which will be presented by Heidi Rethmeyer, who works here as a staff developer, and she will be highlighting some of the science resources that we have available for checkout at ESU8. So in closing, I just want to remind you to keep exercising your brain because it's the only one you have. And if you have any questions or you'd like to learn more about some of the resources, just shoot me an email, jbates@esu8.org. Thanks so much.